Schizophrenia is a brain disorder with symptoms ranging from hallucinations and delusions to a difficulty concentrating or forming appropriate emotional responses, as well as performing in career-related, social, and academic endeavors. Moreover, schizophrenia typically evinces during late adolescence and early adulthood and impacts approximately 1% of the population, with slightly higher commonality in men. Notably, the risk of developing schizophrenia increases for individuals with schizophrenic relatives. About 13% of children with one schizophrenic parent develop the disease themselves, and the likelihood ranges from 36 to 46% for children with two schizophrenic parents. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the risk of developing schizophrenia decreases between the first, second, and third degree relatives between generations. In addition to this, schizophrenia mainly affects brain tissues and more closely neurons that require the chemicals dopamine and glutamine. Someone with schizophrenia suffers from an increase of said chemicals, which interact with the neurons to create the symptoms of schizophrenia, including delusions. Not only do genetics contribute to the formation of schizophrenia, as do environmental impacts. Children who grew up in abusive households have a likelier chance of developing schizophrenia. In our SNP chip test, we will use an approximate number of 20,000 DNA variations using a microarray. Specifically, we will look for variations in the genes RELN and SYN2 due to their strong predictive value for schizophrenia. SYN2 codes for the protein synapsin, and RELN codes for the protein relin, which is imperative for the development and completion of neurological pathways in the brain. According to SNPpedia, studies have shown that women who have the GG risk genotype for the SNP RS7341475, impacting the RELN gene, show higher levels of microexon skipping in the brain. Moreover, microexons play significant roles in both system functionality and regulation. The low levels of relin in schizophrenic patients and their link to other neuropsychiatric diseases explain why the genetic variations in the RELN gene act as risk indicators. Notably, relin is expressed by the cell Cajal retzius, located in the marginal zone of the prenatal cortex. According to the study by Schiffman and others, men who are tested and are found to be homozygous for the G allele for the gene affected by RS165688 SNP and have velocardial syndrome, about 20 to 30% of said males will develop schizophrenia. Another study by Schiffman and Oveda shows that women that are homozygous for the G allele affected by SNP RS7341475 developed a higher risk of microexon skipping, which in turn causes an increased risk of schizophrenia in women. So anyone who gets tested and is shown to be homozygous for these genes could evaluate themselves as possibly having a predisposition towards schizophrenia. The most pressing issue in regards to testing for schizophrenia specifically is that knowledge of diagnosing schizophrenia itself is an inexact process. Many times, schizophrenia and other affective diseases are diagnosed on a spectrum because a lot of the symptoms overlap. This disease is considered to be a result of many complex genes and traits intertwining with one's environment, also playing a role in the expression. With this in mind, it is hard to find a legitimate, clear-cut way to determine whether a test can actually help in any way despite the cost of testing in general. Testing for schizophrenia can cause many concerns, both positive and negative. Some concerns could be test reliability, cost, data interpretation, stigma, psychological harm, family planning, and privacy. The cost of testing for schizophrenia ranges between $100 to $300 and is done by a SNP chip test. There is no proven cure to schizophrenia, so an individual who gets genetic testing and finds they have a chance of developing the disease could start to plan ahead before symptoms arise and figure out the possible treatments that are available and learn more about the disease, which could cause an even bigger financial burden. The opposite effect could happen where someone who finds out they're at risk of schizophrenia could start to become depressed or demonstrate other negative effects. Each person reacts to information differently, and it is up to the person on whether or not they will want to find out how at risk they are to an incurable disease.